All right, it's time to bring it on, and we've got some great questions today, Gordon. Are you ready?
No, but I'll go ahead.
Oh, God is with you. All right, Chris writes, when I see Jews praying at the Western Wall in Jerusalem, why do some of them rock back and forth? What does that signify? Good question.
Chris, I've seen that too. I've asked the same question, and let me teach you some Yiddish words. Davening is the Yiddish word for prayer, and I've heard that described as davening, but there's actually another Yiddish word, shuckling. Some people pronounce it shuckling, and that literally translates shaking, and that's the word for this. And it's a rhythmic back and forth rocking movement that they use during prayer. Now, you get into issues, is it biblical? And the earliest reference from it comes from around the 8th century, so it doesn't go all the way back to Bible times. But it is an aid in meditation, and it is an aid in prayer. Rhythmic movement, trying to focus your concentration on what you're praying about. You know, if you do it, great. If you don't do it, great. Either way. I do want to tell you about another thing, because today is Yom Kippur, and I've learned a great deal from our Jewish traditions. Yom Kippur's got a great prayer called the Vidui prayer, where you pray that on a yearly basis, learning where the source of sin is. And the source of sin is in your heart, and the confession from your heart. I encourage Christians to do this. If you want to get a copy of it, it will be available on cbn.com. All you have to do is click on it, and where is the discussion on Yom Kippur, you can find a copy of an English translation of the Vidui prayer. It's good to get in touch with our Jewish roots.
It absolutely is. Amen. All right, Annie writes, I discovered the 700 Club last year while in the emergency room and have been watching every day since. At around that time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and it has been over a year now since her diagnosis. She has great faith and prays every day. Recently, her cancer has been causing her more pain, and she has given up hope. Our family is praying for healing, but it seems she's not feeling physically or mentally any better. Can she be healed?
Annie, the answer is yes, she can be healed, but certainly in my ministry, I've seen people that didn't, and it's always a great blow to lose somebody that you love dearly. And you prayed, they prayed, there was great faith, but you didn't get an answer. I've seen it both ways. I was in a hospital room in Manila. I was actually there for another friend who had gone through an operation, and they were sharing a room with a young woman in her 20s who had just gone through brain surgery, had brain cancer, and the doctors had given up hope, and she was still unconscious. Her head was all wrapped in bandages, but because we were praying for the friend, her friend said, well, you'll pray for our friend. And so we went over and prayed, and boy, I didn't feel a thing. There wasn't any light in the room. It just seemed to be a big weight, and so I didn't have any faith. I don't know who had faith there. I didn't think anything was going to happen. But that woman who was on death's door got out of that bed and walked home. At the same time, I had a very dear friend of mine who worked at CBN. He had cancer, and I had words for him, and was sure he's going to recover. He did, and then he went into relapse. Ultimately, it came back, and he died from that. And I had an argument with God. Why? I got specific words, and I did what you asked me to do. Why did he die? The answer kind of surprised me, and that still small voice said, his symptoms were shouting at him. And sometimes we let the symptoms of pain and disease overcome the word, and it's able to quench it. There's a whole discussion from Jesus in Matthew chapter 13 about what can take the word away, and what allows the word to grow and bear fruit. And sometimes words of healing can be taken away by the enemy. But rejoice, if they're a Christian, you'll be with them for all eternity, and they've been released from pain on this earth. But that's a difficult question. But I would encourage you to pray and keep on praying. Ask and keep on asking. Don't give up. It's when you give up that you lose hope and you lose faith. You lose faith.
Yeah, as long as they're alive, there's hope, right?
As long as there's breath.
Yes, right. Well, Mrs. Cece writes, when the woman was caught in the act of adultery by the religious leaders, why wasn't the man involved also brought to Jesus? In that culture, was it acceptable for men to be the exception to moral laws?
No, in that culture, it's very clear from the Torah, the man was to be stoned too. That was a test for Jesus by the religious leaders, and some commentators have said it shows their own hypocrisy because they brought the woman, they didn't bring the man. And this is, sort of through history, women tend to bear the brunt for sexual sins, and the prime reason is women get pregnant and men don't. But that's no excuse for it. And so to say it was a cultural thing, no. The Torah demands both the man and the woman be punished for the sin of adultery. But look to what Jesus did. It's so easy to get scandalized by sin and then have it infect your own heart and take away your joy when you get offended. Look what Jesus did. He said, I'm not going to condemn you. He forgave her, but commanded her, go and sin no more. So do the same thing and forgive.